Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth, as we have Dr. Fredrick Woodard here tonight talking about your supernatural and paranormal abilities. Oh, we're going to have fun with him tonight as it's his second time on this show. And we have all of you here. Tim Mothman in the gold medal position, his goatee in a gold medal position as well. Race Fan in the silver, and B taking home the bronze tonight. Hi, Deidre. How are you? Chris 716, Scottsdale Memorial. Welcome to SOR Chat. Paula Foss, nice to see you. Deborah Rooney, you're in early. Glad you are here. Lee the Bee, Brown Dwarf, and Eternity Eternal. Thurston Howell III is back. Thurston will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Mama Susan, how are you? And Cosmic Joe. Human Carl is here, a great veteran of the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service, Human Carl. We love you. Wild Barry, thanks for coming on in. And who else is next here? Scrolling on down. Good morning, Body Tech. Thank you for joining us. And hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Me Woykin, good to have you here as we continue on with our roll call. There's Desert Rat. And the lovely and talented and amazing Kira, thank you for joining us. Scrolling on down here. And who's next? Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Continuing on with our roll call, John Lamb has returned. John Lamb will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Continuing on, let's say hello to Puck Elf and Rockin' Rory. Thank you for joining us. Aloha Dave, Karen in the Woo Train, thank you for coming on in. And there's Operation Shutdown. Good to see you. Lawana Murphy, welcome to SOR Chat. As we continue on with our roll call tonight, Mac Geek, Phineas Coathanger over on X. How you doing? NHI, Eva. How you doing? I'm Dave. And you are? Just teasing. Okay, let's do this thing. River Morris. Al Garay over on Twitch just got out of the gym. Yep. Bench pressing 385 tonight, 25 times. He did that in 3 sets, by the way. 3 sets. 25. Yeah. Well, you know what I'm talking about. Phyllis Boucher Perry, good evening to you. Audacious Amber, thank you for coming on in. Laura Lobbs, thank you for joining us. Hi there, Thomas Rock. And who's next on our list here? Let's scroll on down. Oh, who's on Facebook? Who is watching on Facebook right now? Bet you, it's the pro wrestler herself, Michelle Morgan Eilis. How are you? I heard El Avni Volador still has beef with your husband, Michelle. I heard it's true. I don't even want to go there. That's scary stuff. Chill Farm, W. David Page, thank you for joining us. Well, hello, Arimathea, the lovely and talented Arimathea. Go on Facebook to Art by Arimathea. Check out her amazing work. Don't forget to hit her, give her a like on her page. She's freaking amazing. Absolutely amazing. Skip to Malou, Thank you for coming on in. And who else is here? Pam Harris, Vanessa, Digger Dog, good to see you all. Christine Lynn, thank you for joining us. And John Lamb did bring his Sharpie, so he's prepared for the autographs. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet. Tonight we are getting into the supernatural paranormal. How can we communicate and get involved with that? Dr. Fredrick Woodard is here. He'll be with us momentarily as we are in roll call, as Bill WD-40 is in the room lubing us up for tonight's show, because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. You don't want any of that rigidness. Hello, the beautiful cryptid huntress. We'll see you in Reno very, very soon. And who else is here? Scrolling on down. Geez, we got 10 seconds. Rayfin, thanks for coming on in. And here we go. Horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon at spacedoutradio.com. We have our website, spacedoutradio.com as well. Make sure you check out our swag, our newswire, and so much more. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. All right, we got a power show of fun tonight. Dr. Fredrick Woodard comes in, talk about his new book involving the supernatural and paranormal. We're going to have some fun with him. Then in hour number 3, Steve Stockton from Among the Missing joins us. Follow that up by Court will be in session. The UFO Court with Courtney Marcassani. All right. Let's get right into it tonight, shall we? Dr. Fredrick Woodard is a licensed clinical psychologist and certified hypnotherapist who conducts original research on the supernatural, paranormal, hypnosis, and psychotherapy. He's the author of Perpetual Hypnosis. He holds a PhD in clinical psychology and Doctor of Clinical Hypnotherapy degree, as well as 3 psychology-related master's degrees. And here I am with a broadcast diploma. I don't even know how to compete with this guy. He's going to use words that are long and hard to pronounce. I could tell. I'm teasing. Dr. Fredrick Woodard, it's glad to have you back on Spaced Out Radio. How you doing?
I'm doing good. The funny thing is my education helped me learn to simplify words. So I'm hoping that my book it doesn't do that to people. It doesn't use words that people can't understand.
I love it.
Clarifies those.
Been a while since we had you on Spaced Out Radio, so yeah. I'm glad to have you back and see that you are continuing your search for all sorts of anomalies of consciousness and supernatural ability and psychic ability and paranormal understanding. For our audience who may not be familiar with your work, how did you get into all of this? What pushed you this way?
Well, the thing is, I kind of enjoyed, my ancestors are all pioneers, and I kind of enjoyed doing something that hadn't been done a lot. So it's like when I did the perceptual hypnosis book, I did a phenomenology of it, which was a way of explaining it that hadn't been done. No one had done that. And in my Developing Your Supernatural Awareness, Connecting with a Interactive Universe, my new book, I do the same thing. I use humanistic interviewing and phenomenological interviewing. Those are big words, but they simplify things down to simple things, simple language for the people, so people can understand what's being said.
Well, you know what? It's something that I think is great because the one thing, Dr. Woodard, that we see a lot of is a lot of medical practitioners and other doctorates and scientists who really don't like delving into these subjects. They're afraid of reputation, they're afraid of reprisal, fear of losing grants, and so much. But here you are working your way, trying to solve some of life's major mysteries and answers.
Well,
I mean,
trying
this
to
is
try.
not. Go ahead.
I'm trying to add some knowledge to it, add some ideas, and give people some chances of expressing themselves. So it's usually about the people's circumstances, not mine. Mine are a little bit in there, but not much. And it's more about all the people I interviewed. There's like 51 people that are in my book.
When you were going down this path and interviewing people for your book or just general study, what are you looking for? What makes a person stand out to you?
Well, the two most important things to me are, one is they have an inner experience and then it happens in the outside world, or they have an inner experience and it transforms them, it changes them, and that indicates that something serious has happened. Sometimes the circumstances of experiences aren't necessarily important to everybody, but they're important to that person, and for that person that experience means something. For
Eh,
example, I
please.
remember when I was young in undergrad and college, I was walking into a store to buy a soda, and I was thinking about my uncle who died in the war when he was in high school, and he was 17 or 18 when he died, and I thought, well, maybe he's not even around, maybe he's not even connected, and then I bought the soda, and in my hand was a World War II nickel that
Really?
in the change, which is incredibly rare. And then I said to myself, maybe I need to just not judge this and let it happen and wait and see what happens.
Do you think we overthink and overestimate everything, especially with our own human abilities that we've, kind of been patted down in our brains for so long that we don't even know how to unlock it anymore?
Sometimes I think that's true. Yes, I do. I think sometimes people overthink things and label things and judge things too quickly, and maybe shouldn't, should have an open mind. That was one of the things I gained from the phenomenological and the humanistic interviewing, was to learn to not judge, to learn to let the person tell me their story, not not necessarily me interpreting it, but them telling me their story and taking it from them when it's genuine.
Okay, so what makes a good candidate for a study regarding supernatural, paranormal, consciousness, psychic ability?
Well, like I said, it would be those two things: the thing that something transformed them and they had an inner experience that happened in the outside world. A lot of the stories that I use are just like that. For example, there was a woman that she was trying to find her father's insurance document. He had died, and her sister was helping her, and they couldn't find the insurance document, and they finally gave up. And she was laying down in her bed at night, getting ready to go to sleep, and she smelled her father's cigar smoke that they didn't sell anymore. And then she looked up, and he was standing there in her room, and he said, "The insurance document is in the coin savers." And they went over 2 days later and they found the coin savers. They found the insurance document in the coin savers.
Incredible.
And so
Incredible.
those are the kind of experiences. Some things are simpler, like simple things can happen. For example, I had a woman tell me a story where she was pregnant and she just found out and she didn't even show. She wasn't even showing. And this man came alongside of her and said, "You're pregnant." And she didn't even know she was pregnant yet. And he told her she was, and then she went and got herself tested, and of course she was. I also had a guy that was in the gym with me when I was in the gym, and he came up to me and he said, "You're that guy that does the supernatural investigations, right?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I got to tell you a story. I don't want to be interviewed, but I just want to tell you a story." And he said, "I was on my motorcycle and I slid on the sand and I went down and I was bleeding on my arm a little bit. And a voice came into my head and said, 'If you want to live, get up right now.' And I got up and moved, and a truck went over the spot where I was laying down."
Oh, wow. So when we tap into the brain,
Well, I don't know if
how
it's
do
the
we get
brain.
there?
It might be the
Okay.
spirit.
Okay. That I would believe. That I would believe. I've actually had that. I call it, I call it that inner voice that, it always seems to come up when you're about to do something stupid. You know what I'm saying? Or
Well,
you're in
yeah,
some sort
in my book, Developing Your Supernatural Awareness, I have a story at the very beginning of the book that's about me. I go to the Concord State Library, the genealogy library, and I'm trying to find one of my grandfathers that was in Pittsford, Vermont, and a connection between him and his father. I had him all the way coming back, and I had him going this way, but I couldn't connect the two of them. And it was about 1700s that they had lived, and I couldn't do it. So there was three old men sitting in the corner talking, and they were talking at such a low level you couldn't make out what they were saying. And I turned around and faced the other way, and I was starting to walk, and I heard as clear as a bell in my head one of those three men say, "Check the land deeds." So I went to the Mormon church in Nashua, and I ordered the land deeds for Pittsford, Vermont. And one of the land deeds literally had the relationship described between the mother and the son, because the husband had been killed when he went up to Shelburne for wheat. He was in the house, and the 50 British soldiers and Iroquois descended on the house, but they didn't win. The Americans won because there was 15 Revolutionary soldiers and the family, and then my grandfather and his friend. They killed my grandfather and his friend, but because they didn't know not to stand away from the doors and windows which weren't fortified. But the captain went out and put the fire out. That they tried to burn the house, and then they went out and they chased them down all the way to New York, and they called it the Battle of Bloody Brook because they killed all of them.
Oh my. That little inner voice that you were mentioning a little bit ago, you believe it is the soul voice. Is that a voice of higher connection, or is that internal?
I think that voice was one of those three men that was talking, whose voice was put in my head so that I would hear that part, and then I went on and checked it, and sure enough, there was a connection, and there was the land deeds don't normally have relationships in them, so this was really rare.
Well, I understand that, but everybody seems to have that soul voice that can
Well, what I what
communicate.
I what I call that is there were the old Greeks and Romans way back in time used to talk about not treating anybody badly. No one. Don't treat anyone badly, because you never know when you're talking to a god or a goddess. And I think that it's the idea of a voice coming through and giving you information through the person that doesn't know they're doing it.
You don't think it? What's the chances of it being a higher reaching entity, maybe God, maybe angels.
Oh, it's possible that that's possible too. But the point is that I think that that guy's voice was put in my head because it was clearly his voice.
Okay, moving on to other people who are having this same type of experience. Would it be relatives or somebody like that coming back to them to protect them from the other side?
It could be, but you know what I was trying to get at is the idea that it was one of those examples of an
Yes.
inner experience that happened in the outside world and validated the experience. And that's kind of how I kind of kept used the examples with people, that there was something that validated the experience.
Right. Okay. I get where you're going now. When you are talking to people about their own happenings, does it draw memories from yourself of what's happened to you?
No, because I don't have many of them. I just had a small number of them.
Are you able to uh, see any patterns between people who have these type of awesome
Yes,
experiences?
yes, the chapters in my book, some of the chapters are like out of the blue. Um, the first thought that comes to your mind, um, perceiving through feelings and thoughts, interaction with external influences, creatures, perceiving unexpected beings and objects, communicating after death, and ethical supernatural awareness, using your gifts responsibly. Those were some of the chapters, the themes that came out of the stories that were chapters in my book.
Okay. So, getting to the overall subject of everything, do you look at this topic as a phenomena that we haven't solved in humanity, or one that we are trying to learn about, but it's just not really happening right now because the scientific community really isn't taking it seriously?
Well, I look at it like it's I'm trying to understand it better, and I'm trying to share information that I get. And one of the ways was to go for my education in psychology and be able to interview people better than I could if I didn't. And that was one of the things that I wanted to do, was to um, be able to talk to people and not judge them, and take in their experience, especially when they're genuine experiences, and just share those experiences. I don't think we understand completely a lot of this stuff. And I think one of the bad things is that we'd like to capture everything and measure everything. And then what are we going to do with it after that? We're going to control it?
Is it controllable?
Probably not. But the point is, we might try. Some,
But
some,
isn't that the human way to do things, though? Is instead of just letting it ride and see how it plays out, that we have to try and remain focused and controlled?
yeah, well, control it. Yes, want to control things. But I don't think that that's the way it's meant to be. I think we're supposed to accept some of these things and just experience them and live them.
See, I think you just said something very important, is that we're supposed to experience this, whether it's good or bad. I think we tend to step and shy away from a lot of these experiences that we are supposed to have, whether it's getting up in the morning for a sunrise, or watching the northern lights if you have that ability, or even watching, a tree grow, sitting
Right.
outside and watching the tree. We seem to take a lot of it for granted. Could that be because of the state of where we are right now, with the way what life is, because it's complicated? Social media has taken over, influencers, etc.
Yeah, it's funny. I can make an analogy, a bad analogy, with my dog. One of my dogs, a German Shepherd. She's 7, and I've walked her on the rail trail, which is something here that we have that for 7 years, and on 2 occasions there were a single guy walking between 30 and 40, and she growled. She growled quite a bit, like something wasn't okay. And I paid attention and made sure I heard. They kept going, and and I thought to myself, isn't that funny? She loves people. She loves to meet people, interact with people, interact with animals, and yet she on those 2 occasions she was very unhappy. And so I think that's human. Human beings are the same way. There's human beings that are okay, and human beings that are open, human beings that want to learn more, and then there's human beings that are very closed.
Does it matter on where the person grew up? Is it the humanity of the person, the way they were raised? Maybe it's religion, maybe it's agnosticism. Does it matter, or does this just affect all? And when they get it, they get it.
I think that when they get it, they get it. I think what happens is some people have experiences that open them up. I remember being in college, an undergrad in college, and getting a flyer from a metaphysical place nearby and looking at it and going, oh my God, that stuff's crazy. But later in life, as time went on, I became more and more open to those things.
Are there any patterns that we as people can just follow? Is there any way that we can just, learn as we're going here and trying to figure out the patterns, or what the patterns are, in order to define those spiritual concepts or those paranormal concepts?
Well, I'm talking about walking on the trail, and there was a time where I walked my dog, and I walked her baby, who was a year and a half years old, and I was with a professor, and the professor was talking to me about stuff that was concerning him, and so he was very focused, and the dogs were sniffing the ground, and about 100 yards up ahead, two bobcats crossed the path and kept going. They didn't care. They weren't interested in engaging. And and I noticed that, and I thought to myself, see, that's being aware. You're aware of your surroundings. You're paying attention to what's going on despite what's happening in front of you. And some people can do that and some people can't.
Do we have to have people guide us to get to this point?
Not necessarily. Sometimes I think it happens naturally for some people, and then in some cases you can tweak it by having education and learning things, or having people teach you stuff that can help you. I mean, I've helped a lot of people as a psychologist open up more, and and become more accepting of things, and I think that's really helped them quite a bit.
We got just under a minute to go here. Dr. Fredrick Woodard is here with us tonight on Spaced Out Radio. When you are taking on clients for this, do they know that they are having these experiences, or is it something you open them up to?
Oh, usually when I do the book was all research based, so they come in for that alone. And I had originally put an ad in the paper, and then over time, people knew that I was doing it.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Hard to believe we're already through first half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight with Dr. Fredrick Woodard. He's got a brand new book out, Developing Your Supernatural Awareness, Connecting with an Interactive Universe. We're going to get more into that, more into supernatural abilities. Do we have them? And what exactly are they? Because when I think supernatural, I'm thinking like Spider-Man abilities. I don't think that's it. I don't think that's what the great doctor says it's all about. Spaced Out Radio will continue right after this. Stay tuned. All right, we are clear. Quick first half hour.
Yeah.
All right. Just bear with me for a second. I'm just going to step out for a minute.
Okay.
I have a message for you, Crazy Hot Morgan, and the Navajo Warrior. You called me for a cage match. That cage match is on. El Ovni Volador is showing up to body slam you both in a tag team match. I don't even have a partner yet. I don't even know if I'm going to get a partner. But the minute you want to step into the ring with the most dangerous UFO man in the world, let me tell you something, sister. You're playing with fire. You're playing with fire. You don't want any of this. I've forewarned you going into Vegas last year that the Navajo Warrior was in trouble, that he can't compete with a young stallion like myself. But you called it, and it's going to happen. Pick the day. It's going to happen, and I will be there. The rest of you, don't even go there. Don't even go there. El Ovni Volador is tired of you people. You people stink. But you, Navajo Warrior, you and your 600-pound bench press, and Crazy Hot Morgan, you and your 400-pound bench press, wait till I lift you to the stars and slam you down on the ground, dropping an elbow into the solar plexus to take the air out of you. It's going to happen. Going to happen. I will make you bleed before you get this mask off. I'm out of here. Not worth my time anymore. Call me when you're serious. You know how to get a hold of me. Navajo Warrior and Crazy Hot Morgan. I'm out. Whew. That was a good bathroom break. Sorry about that, Fred. I just had to take a bathroom break there.
No problem.
Yeah. Yeah. What the hell happened here? Look at this crap. Wow. Anyways, some weirdos out there. Weirdos. President Zaddy, how are you? And, yeah. Les Poole, welcome. Hi, Sparkles on Facebook. We got about a minute here, Doc, and then we're going to get going.
Okay.
Yeah. The hell do you guys in the chat room keep talking about El Ovni Volador? Noble Patrick, how you doing? My chat room's weird sometimes. Asimov, how you doing? Thank you tonight to W. Decker and Deidre for the amazing super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And don't forget, people, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, as we are always looking good in our gear. Margaret Oliver, nice to see you. Scrub-a-dub-dub, thanks for coming on in. And we're going to get going here in about 17 seconds. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be real fun. Second half hour, Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, our archives are always free. You can listen to them on any major podcast network or at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. We continue on with Dr. Fredrick Woodard as we are talking about developing your supernatural awareness, connecting with an interactive universe. Dr. Fred, welcome back. Let me get you on mute here. Hold on. There we go. Now we can actually do proper radio here. Thank you for coming on in. How does one develop their supernatural awareness? Is this something we need to work on?
It's a process, yes. I think some people, everybody's different. So some people have more of it and some people need to work on it more. And it depends on the person. Some people are very good at it, and some people are not so good at it. Some people are afraid of it. Some people are open arms for it.
Why would somebody be afraid of it?
Because it scares them.
Is it just that simple?
It can be. It's not always. It's probably very complicated. It's like at the end of my book, I have a chapter, a little brief chapter on cynics and skeptics, and it's like they don't have any experience to connect to. They have none. They can't see it. They can't experience it. And that's until they do, they won't be able to open up.
Okay, so when you say open up, explain to our audience what that means.
Well, that's some people are already open when they get here. And some people, it's like Jesus in the Bible, one of the stories of Jesus where the old men come and say, Jesus, a rabbi, she was sleeping with a married man. She's to be stoned. And Jesus touches the ground and then looks at them and says, let he who has not sinned throw the first stone. And nobody does. That's enlightenment, that's being aware. But some people aren't aware.
Okay, so how does one create their own awareness?
It's working on the different things. Like in my book, I unravel some of it. Each chapter there's a theme, and then there's exercises at the end of each chapter. Like one chapter is talking about how a couple of different people in the interviews were experiencing bodily sensations. So this one woman said to me, when I see you, I can feel you. And my great aunt and my great uncle, I could feel them. And when they died and they came into my apartment, I felt them. And another woman talked about how she'd have goosebumps and chills from her experience with her mother when her mother passed. When her mother would show up, she would feel that, and feel that with other people in her family also. And so it's like being able to do those things, but hearing those things from others sometimes can help you open up if you can't. And if you already have, it's like a connection. It's like making a connection, like, oh, I experienced that. Yeah. And you can, so it's, those are some of the aspects of how you open up.
I
It's
know
not
when I
it's not
open up,
simple.
no, it's not, but it's a process of emotion too. Because in order to get that clarity, you need to release a lot of anger, a lot of emotion, a lot of sadness. You need forgiveness. At least was the process that I went through all of this. Is that all part of it normally?
It can be. It can be. Everybody's different. Some people don't get angry. Some people just experience things and there's no anger involved. Other people get very angry.
Okay, so if that's the case, doesn't releasing the anger release the blockages that you may have that could be holding you
Yes,
back?
yes, releasing the blockages is important. If there are blockages, yes.
How does one know if they had blockages?
Well, a lot of times what I do with people is I'll have them imagine removing the blocks from their awareness, and often use the beach so that when they go to the beach, when the water's coming in, it causes a wave of relaxation, and when the water's going back out, it's removing any obstacles, blocks, or barriers to their growth.
Okay, so when we are getting rid of them, do we have to clear them ourselves, or do we need like a shamanic healer or somebody to help us
Well,
clear?
it all depends on the person. Some people can do that themselves. Some people need help.
Explain a situation for me where that would be the case.
Where they need help,
Yeah.
that would be somebody that, despite all the attempts to do that stuff on their own, it doesn't work.
Okay.
It's
In your
it, it,
aspect, in your mind, what is your definition then of supernatural?
oh, my definition of supernatural experiences are things that we can't explain with our sciences as they are now. It doesn't mean that down the road we won't be able to understand them, but we don't understand them right now. So, any of the experiences that people had that shared with me things that weren't normal and weren't scientifically valid, would be such experiences.
Okay. So if they're not
So,
scientifically valid, which I agree with you on, because there's a lot of this that just
well, it's
goes
like
beyond.
it's hard to put into words in some cases, and it's hard to measure the experience. Like, you have the experience, like me going into the store and buying a soda and thinking about my uncle and then getting a World War II nickel. That matters to me. It doesn't matter to anyone else. They don't know whether I really got the nickel or not, but I did.
Okay. Um,
you know and it's like, I'm using that as an analogy of any
right.
experience. It's like, so somebody has something that happens inside of them, and then it happens in the outside world. How do we explain that? How do we understand that? We don't completely understand all those things at this point. even though they're there.
But isn't that the big part of the science that we're not getting, is that there's a lot of hows that are
Well,
going
yeah,
on?
the science we're not getting, it could be the answer. That's true. It could be down the road. It could be that like 1,000 years from now or 2,000 years from now, they'll look back and say, "My God, I can't believe they did those things." But that's the only way we could have got where we needed to go. Slowly unfolding things.
Right. Right. Where do you think we store this? Is it deep in the brain? Is it deep in the soul? Are we able, have we just forgotten the ability to tap into our own supernatural prowess?
I think that some of it is the brain is like too simple. Some of it is in the soul, and it can't be in the brain. I think that the body is tied into the emotions, and the mind is tied in with the spirit. But that's
So for
just
people
me.
so for people who are looking at this, if they're agnostic or atheist, they may look at that and say, there is no spirit. Why would you say it that
Right.
way?
And then you know what? That's a possibility too. That is a possibility that we don't understand where we're getting the information, and we're getting it here somehow, and and that there is nothing else, and that's a possibility. And if that's a possibility, that could be one of the ways that we go. But I tend to think that I would rather guess that we're going to go on and be right and have a good experience rather than have a bad experience.
That's a positive way to look at it. Would that also include, the brain's functioning to what a lot of people believe with reincarnation? We tend to forget our previous lives and our previous occurrences here on the planet.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of talk about stuff like we forget what happened to us before we were here and when we went back, and we forget that when we get here. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but not everybody does. There's a small handful of people that claim to have remember these experiences.
Okay, so the people who do remember their reincarnation experiences, how do they remember them? Is it through hypnosis? Is it through just the mind clicking into a different path or a different dimension or world?
Well, I think I remember years ago a movie that was about a reincarnation, and the person just naturally had it, the experience. They just naturally unfolded a reincarnation, and I think it can happen naturally, or it can happen with help. With help, it would be hypnosis or meditation of some sort.
How does meditation
But
help?
I also think one of the things, as far as like the truth about that, is I don't think it's as easy as people think it is. I think that sometimes at first you fantasize stuff and that's not real, and then as you go on more and more, you get into the real stuff. You know, I remember now one of the experiences I had when I was a young kid. I used to watch movies where like Pocahontas and Captain whatever his name was um, were trying to connect, and I would get chills. And later on in life, I found out that one of my great grandfathers, great nine grandfather, was a chief of Chief Matacawanda, and his daughter married my French Baron grandfather in a Catholic church, and so there was a record of it. And you know, it's like, how do you know those experiences are real? You don't necessarily until you have evidence of it. And that was years later that I found the research and the church records.
As we continue on this path of life, that we learn about all of these mysteries that, are almost conspiracy, as some would call them. How do we know what is reality and what's not anymore as we open up?
Well, the reality is stuff that can be checked and proven. The other stuff is not necessarily, you don't know, you know?
What if we're in a simulation, though?
Well, then that would be an interesting thing, wouldn't it?
It would push the mind, but seriously, I mean, there are so many life mysteries out there, from
Right,
cryptids and monsters to UFOs, aliens, time travel, different dimensions, ghosts, spirits, heaven,
right.
hell, demons, angels. I mean, we seem to have a whole plethora of things out there that
Yep.
are around us. Never mind what's in eternal, whether it's out of body experiences or near
Right.
death
I
experience.
remember using a spirit box one time and going on an investigation, and there was a guy that was talking a little bit, and so I said, "So how can we help you?" And his response was impossible, and it was impossible for him, so we couldn't help him.
Well, I mean, I guess that tunes into, I guess there are people out there who can't be helped on their own spiritual journey. They have to figure it out for themselves.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yep, and that's one way. That's not the only way, but that's one way. There's some people that want help. There's some people that want to do it themselves. So those are ideas too.
How much validity do you give people, considering that we're not very perfect? We're not good at, or I should say, we're really good at misremembering what actually happened in
Well,
situations.
usually these kind of experiences that I'm talking about don't happen like that. If they do, during the interview, the person's going to be inconsistent, and then it's not going to be relevant.
So how do we make it relevant?
Well, it'd be consistent. The story would be consistent, and there'd be other ways of checking it.
Could you give an example of that if you don't mind?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, how do we check it? I mean, I'm trying to get something for our audience to
Well,
paint a
the
picture.
insurance document was a good example. Like there's an insurance document there and they're found and it's found. So how did that happen? That we don't completely understand, but we know that she didn't have any way of knowing and her sister didn't have any way of knowing, and they found it through another source. So that's a good
In
example.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. In the realm of the supernatural, does this go beyond our point? Does it go out of body? Does it go dimensional?
Well, some stuff does, but that's the stuff that we can't explain. I didn't do stories on things that couldn't be understood. I didn't work in those areas. I didn't do that stuff. I didn't do stories on psychotic people. I did stories that could be verified and proven that they were real, and that's what I worked on, and it was a small number compared to everything that's going on in the world.
Oh,
So
I believe you there.
I was just trying to contribute something positive to the literature.
Okay, so in the book of the people that you interviewed, were they from all walks of life, all different uh,
Yep.
areas of income,
Yep.
color, race, sexuality, everything, kind of to mix the blend up?
Some of it was like that. There were different ages, different incomes, different walks of life, different levels of education.
And what did you notice? Was it just people being people, or did the different walks of life and different education have different results in their abilities?
No, it didn't really have different results because it was just like those simple things. It's like me getting a coin in my hand when I'm thinking about my uncle. And that those are just really rare moments. They're not, I can't say that that proved he exists, but it was a rare chance of having that happen. And that wasn't in my book, but that's just an experience. What was in my
Out of the
book
people,
was
yeah. Go
was
ahead,
the
please.
what was in my book was the idea of the land deed that proved that the thought that I had was valid.
No, I get that. With the people that you interviewed in regards to this, had the majority of them or all of them gone through supernatural or paranormal experiences, that they could have full recall on?
S- Not some of them just had one experience, and a lot of them told me that I was the first person they told that to. Some of them have had a few since, but not a lot of them are like mediums and uh, gifted healers.
Right. So the ones that only had the one experience, were they more different in
A
their
lot of
study
those
of?
people would tell me that I was the first person they had told this experience to.
No, I get that, and I appreciate that. But were they expecting something more to happen, or were they just like, "Oh, that was cool. That was a good experience. Hope that doesn't happen again."
Well, yeah, sometimes that is the case. It's like I did have a person that wasn't in my book as much as she was in my journal article that I published in 2012, which was a spiritual journal article that was 60 something pages or 70 something pages. And there was a case of a woman that she hugged one of her friends. She had never met her friend's husband, never saw him, never had any information that could justify that. When she hugged her, she said, my God, he's gonna kill her. And 2 weeks later he did, but she had no way of doing anything about it because she had no validity for it.
Oh, okay. So the fact that she had no validity, you know, it being what I like to call one and done,
Well,
is she?
she had an internal experience. It happened in the real world, but she didn't have any information where she could have gone to the cops and said, "Hey, look, you got to protect her." Blah 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 blah, because she didn't even know the man. She'd never met him.
Do you find, as we got about 45 seconds, do you find in cases like that that the memory is very picturesque in a person's head? It is very clear thinking.
Yes, it's very remembered. It's not something you can forget. That's what people tell me. It's like I clearly remember this, and it's not something. It's unusual. It's different. It's not like something they experience every day.
I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Dr. Fredrick Woodard is here tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We'll learn some of his paranormal experiences and how the paranormal ties into supernatural. When we return for hour number 2, my name is Dave Scott. This is Spaced Out Radio. We will be right back. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, Doc, I'll be right back here. We're going to take a quick break. I'm just going to put you back in the green room for 5 minutes, okay?
Okay.
All right, be right back, boss. Be right back, people. right, I'm back. Leafy Nebula, how you doing? Dave's sore tonight. Sore. There we go. There we go. Big thank you tonight to Scrub-a-Dub-Dub, Donnie Cho, Deidre, and W. Decker for the super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support of SOR. Super chat is a wonderful way to do that. Don't forget you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. Hi, Mark Sanchez and his collection of Hawaiian shirts. How you doing? Who else is here? Oh, I think we're caught up there. I'll explain this hat in hour 3. And here we go, everybody. Here we go with the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. And what do you got tonight for us, Clam? Let's take a little looky-poo here. It is Cacodemomania. Cacodemomania? Something like that. The Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. We continue on tonight with Dr. Fred Woodard. He has a book out, Developing Your Supernatural Awareness, Connecting with an Interactive Universe. Dr. Fred, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
How does the paranormal tie in to all of this for you?
Well, the supernatural, I call it the supernatural because it was what I saw as the aspects of the paranormal or spiritual, whatever. It's supernatural because it's beyond natural. It's beyond our understanding at this point.
Okay, so I understand it's beyond our thinking and conception. In your opinion, what is a ghost or spirit then?
It all depends. I'm not sure.
You've been investigating for a long time.
Yes, but I've interacted with people and things that have had those experiences, but I'm not sure what those experiences are completely.
So you've been doing this for a long time. Well, why is it still so confusing?
Well, it's not confusing. It's just I'm okay with not knowing the ultimate answers, having a living definition that is infallible. That's not going to happen until we're in the other world.
But in human curiosity, isn't that something that we should know or try to solve?
We think we should know. We think we should know, but maybe we don't need to totally have the answers. We just need to experience what we experience. And like I explained earlier with the voice in my head that was the old man, one of the old men sitting there, that it checked out and it was valid. it checked out. I checked I got the records, and there's sure enough there was a record, and there was a record with a relationship in it. And that helps understand that was real, but it's not an ultimate answer. How did the voice get in my head? You know, that I don't understand.
What's the most profound paranormal experience you've had?
Uh, just those simple ones. I haven't had any big, huge, um, like life altering experiences like some of my clients have had, but I've been open to them.
So what happened for you?
The genealogy thing, the World War II nickel, things like that.
Okay, yeah, I understand, but what what did you go through? What was the process going through your mind when you were having such experiences?
Was well, the process I went through was how could I validate these things? You know, are they real? And the little things that I was able to validate were goods, were things that I used to help identify other cases that were bigger,
And those cases look like what?
like the insurance document, um, things like that. The woman that the old woman that I interviewed, that when she was young she went to the laundromat. She asked her husband to go with her, but he wouldn't go. And she got to the laundromat and saw a man in there, and said, "Oh, good, I'll be safe." Well, he knocked her out and then raped her, and she had a near death experience. And she had wanted to die, and she had known the person that met her at the light, and but she didn't remember him later. And she wanted to take her kids with her, and the person at the light said, "You can't take your kids, and if you want to come back now, you're going to have to relive your whole life over again." And she didn't want to do either one of those things. She didn't want to leave her kids, and she didn't want to relive her life. So it transformed her. And when I interviewed her, she was old. She had no desire to die.
I could see why not. I have a good friend of mine named Daryl who actually recalled going through his his judgment. He had a brain aneurysm on this side, and he was pretty much, a vegetable on this side, to say it politely, you know, curled up, no response, in a coma for 3 weeks. But he recalls actually being part of his judgment when this was going on. And it really changed his entire life scope and thinking, because he wasn't very
Right.
religious at that time. He wasn't very, you know, he wasn't a stable man. And then when this happened, he said that to him, after he went through his judgment, God was sitting in front of him, and he couldn't pick his eyes up to look at God. He was too embarrassed. And from there, he ended up actually getting a question from God, basically saying, you're more than welcome to stay and come to heaven, or if you want, we'll give you a choice to go back home. And he said, I have a 2-year-old son. I would like to go and raise him the way he should be raised. And God said, okay. And within minutes of that happening, all of a sudden he went from not being able to move any of his limbs in a coma to bright-eyed and bushy-tailed within a couple of days. Doctors to this day have no explanation for what he went through.
Right. That's transformation.
Are there a lot of cases like that?
Yes, there are many cases where people transform, their experience transforms them. Those are the ones that I use in the book, where there's examples of that. You know, I remember a young woman I may have mentioned earlier, or may not have, um, that she had become pregnant and she didn't even know she was pregnant. And this man came alongside of her and told her she was pregnant. And she went and she checked later, and sure enough, she was, and didn't know how he knew because she didn't know.
So how does psychic ability play a role in all of this, where you always hear people saying that everyone is psychic? Most people just don't realize it or have forgotten how to tap into that intuition.
Well, that could be true. That could be true. I've had moments of that in my office where I remember a mother and a daughter. The daughter I was working with, and the mother came in with her daughter, and they walked in, and I started talking about a tiger, and they looked at each other like in shock, and then they looked. I said, What's going on?" "Well, we were just talking about a tiger for the last half an hour." "That's why it shocked us that you can't. You just started off talking about a tiger," and I had no idea.
That seems so random.
Random in what way?
Well, just a random type of thinking regards to a
Yeah,
tiger.
it's like I just brought up a tiger because it seemed relevant to a point of something, and they were completely shocked because they had been talking about tigers for the last half an hour while they were driving here to my office. And you know, I think some things we know and some things we don't, but it
What do
doesn't
you
mean
think
that.
we're Okay, but let me ask you that then. What do you think we're supposed to know?
I don't know. I don't know. It's like I think I put together my book, and I shared the information that I gained through the knowledge of those stories those people told me, and that leads to, like, at the end of each chapter I have exercises to wake yourself up or open yourself up or be more open to experiences, including like one chapter where there's the feeling states we talked about. And there's an exercise to just feel. Just don't think, don't see, just feel the experience. Try to feel your way through the day or the hour or the amount of time you're going to dedicate to that. And that kind of can open people up a little bit in different ways. But that came from those chapters, exercise, the examples in those chapters,
What
and that
about
was what
people
people shared with me.
what about people who have negative paranormal experiences?
I didn't have too many of those experiences. People didn't share those with me.
Okay, but you've studied it.
I've experienced people mention it. Like, I had a woman who wrote an article on me in a local newspaper, and she came in and she said that she had absolutely had a bad experience once and went somewhere where there was an old building, and but she didn't describe it in detail to me. But
Okay.
I haven't had those kind of experiences myself.
Would you want to?
Not necessarily, no. Bad experiences?
Well, you got to take the good with the bad, correct?
Well, yes, but not at the level that some people can experience those things. They can be very brutal.
Oh, I agree. I agree. As someone who has been attacked by spirit, it's not very fun at times. I can tell you that.
Right. But yeah, I haven't had that experience. And so that's a good thing in my mind. I'm trying to focus on the positive and help people see the positive in these experiences and grow in a positive way, not create negative not create negative experiences.
But with a lot of people who have, say, extraterrestrial contact, which is considered supernatural, they seem to get a mixture of both, almost like the yin and yang.
Well, yeah, I had a woman that I had hypnotized, and she had left her body, and had been taken in a playground at a schoolyard, and as a teacher, and she uh, she when I asked her to expand herself and step out of herself and look down on what's going on, she said they won't let me.
What does that mean?
They
They
wouldn't
wouldn't let.
let her leave her body in the place she was at.
Does spirit have that much control?
I don't know. I don't know, but she in that moment she couldn't do it. And so I assumed that that was what was going on with her.
Is it hard for you to remain quite pragmatic about these weird experiences people are having?
No, I just try to, like I said, I try to focus on the positive ones, and like help people move forward with those. I'm not working on the negative ones.
I understand that, but I mean, you still, as a scientist and a doctorate, you still have to try and remain skeptical with the experiences people are having.
Not if I can validate them for them.
How
If
do
I
you
can
evaluate the paranormal?
validate them that they really happened. The experience really happened.
I
There's
I I, I understand that, but what are you looking for evidence to show that the experience truly happened? Like, what convinces you?
what convinces me is the what they tell me, that the event was validated by a pregnancy test after the guy said that she was pregnant and she didn't know she was, or the insurance document is found, those kind of things. That's what I use for experiences that I put in my book. I didn't use experiences that couldn't be validated or couldn't
I
be
understand
like.
that, but I'm talking outside of your book. You've done a lot of research into this scenario.
Yes, that outside of the book, I'm not an expert in some of those areas, and I haven't done a lot of work with negative stuff.
How about on the positive end?
The positive end, I've done quite a bit.
Are the results the same
What do you
for
mean
what somebody else? Well, the results of you've done studies, are the results same from person to person, or do they vary?
they're very similar because of those aspects I talked about, like the transformation. The person makes the transformation, like you were talking about with your friend there, and and the insurance document, those kind of things. The woman that transformed and had no desire to die. Those are to me significant.
Where does your conclusions lie? What do you think is going on?
Ultimately, I'm not sure completely. All I know is that we take in information that we don't understand how we get it, and that does happen. It would be like, out in my yard, there's a garage. Behind the garage, if somebody was scared that there was a cougar out there and there never was, that's fear. But if somebody had a gut feeling that there was a cougar there and the cougar walked around the side of the building, that's a different experience. That's a totally different experience. That's a real experience. And that feels different too. It doesn't feel the same.
Okay, so, and I like where you're going with this. Is we got about 3.5 minutes before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Dr. Fredrick Woodard is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. With the experience creating reality, I've had experiences myself where, I think we all have, where all of a sudden we're like, oh my God, there's going to be a car accident over here. The next thing you know, there's a rear ender. Or, I've had experience where I've felt animals around me. I had, next thing you know, I've turned around right in the middle of the forest and there's a deer that snuck up on me. Right? We all have that intuitive side to pick that up. Where does that come from?
Well, the thing is, that could be if you had a deer right behind you, you could have heard it in some level, but not consciously. You could have taken in the knowledge of hearing it, but that's not the same as like seeing something that's not where you are, and then it happens.
I get that. Do they, whether it's say UFOs or ghosts or spirit or whatever is on the phenomena on the other side, do they then lead us to these objects? And the reason why I ask is because a couple of nights ago, it was a 10th anniversary of me going outside, feeling like I was being called outside of my friend's property and seeing a UFO on the ground.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that could be, that's different. That could be real. That's a real experience. You had that experience. You can't deny that.
Oh, hell no. I do not deny that whatsoever. I know what I saw. It changed my life forever at that point.
Right. I remember watching a movie. I could never find it on TV again. It was a TV movie. And there were these two fathers that were both killed in the military. They were in the military. One was security and one was like a fighter. And their wives, they had babies. They have each had a baby that was half alien and half human. And so the two mothers that are left with the children call for help, and they called a radio DJ who was all about that stuff. And he said, everybody's to go to the safe house. The safe house. We're all going to the safe house. So they all go to the safe house, and the military shows up with a general. And the general says, do whatever you need to do. I want you to get those people and get through those people and get those two kids. And so they start to move in on them, and these people are standing there with shovels and pitchforks and stuff. And the militaries, they've got guns, and they're coming at them. And all of a sudden, a ship shows up, and the ship shows up, and it sends down a energy beam and takes the two kids up and takes off. Now, in the process, the general fired different rockets at it. They did nothing. Absolutely nothing.
On that note, we'll be right back on Spaced Out Radio. Dr. Fredrick Woodard, we have him for another half hour. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, my friend, we are clear. Solid show so far.
Thanks.
All right. We will be taking questions in the final half hour, so if you have any for Dr. Woodard, please put them in capital letters. And a big thank you tonight to W. Decker, Deidre, Scrub-a-Dub-Dub, and Sweet Donnie Cho. Very much appreciate the love. Thank you. Mm-hmm. You got another follow-up book coming out after this one?
Not idealized yet. I haven't really thought about it. I'm still doing work, so something will happen. But I haven't.
It'll write itself when it's ready, I guess.
Yeah, when I decide what to do. But I like to be a pioneer in ways, write something that hasn't been written about, not just rewrite something else that somebody else started.
Oh, I hear you there.
That was one of the things about the phenomenology. It was really difficult because it involves transcribing the interviews, and it's very detailed work. It's extremely detailed. I remember working on my PhD and having a couple of the other students say, "You're not going to do that phenomenology stuff, are you? That takes forever. I would never do that."
Well, sometimes you got to have fun. Go down the rabbit hole a little bit.
Right. I enjoyed it, but the point is that for some people that would be too much, and they like to armchair, sit there and just like decide by armchairing it, like just talking about it.
That's the way a lot of people are.
Yeah, but I mean, some scientists are like that. They don't want to do the work.
Oh, very true. Science, especially in this field, has become very opinionated rather than actually brainstorming.
Yeah, I try to not do that. I try to not make judgments, not make statements that I can't validate, and not say things that aren't true.
Oh, I hear you. Hey, Whoopoo, how you doing? Deidre, I had an overwhelming feeling to go outside. The moon and the stars are just a little too bright and twinkling this evening. Anyone else seeing this? No, because you're on beautiful Vancouver Island where that stuff happens. And some of us are stuck inside with clouds. Let's see here. Seeing if we're missing any questions here. Right. We got about 1 minute here, boss.
Okay.
All right, we have about 45 seconds. Don't forget, everyone, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you go and check out our goodies that we have there. It's all good. You can have some fun with it, just like me. Just like me. So get out there and do it. Okay, we're coming back here in about 7-8 seconds. We made it to the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, I want to give a shout out to all of you who download our podcast for free on any major podcast network. You can also check out our free archives at youtube.com/spaced out radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Final time tonight, we say hello to Dr. Fredrick Woodard. He has a great book out called Developing Your Supernatural Awareness, Connecting with an Interactive Universe. Dr. Fredrick, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a great night of radio with you so far, so thank you for doing that. And let's get to some audience questions here, if you don't mind. We've got a bunch from Wildberry here. Shouldn't it be about accepting the emotions as it is when it comes to the supernatural experience?
Well, emotions are different for each person. So some people have emotions, some people don't. Some people feel emotion, and some people don't. So it's true. Accepting in that person's perspective and that who's talking right there, it should be, because that's what that person needs.
Is every supernatural experience individualized?
I think so. I think so. I think they are. I think they share things, but they're very individual. Each situation is different. It's like the insurance document is not the same as the pregnancy. It's not the same as the old woman not wanting to die anymore. Those are all very unique situations for those individuals. And maybe you could find a few people that share those, but you won't find everybody.
As a professional, how do you explain the experience when you can have 5 people in a room and a haunting happens and they all experience something different?
Well, that can be a problem. I remember when I was in graduate school in Georgia, my professor had put a movie on where it showed different aspects of this guy, like his mother's experience with him, his secretary's experience with him, his boss's experience with him, the taxi driver's experience with him. And then she asked everybody in the class what he had in his hand when he was in his living room. And I was one of 3 or 4 people that got it right. He had a pencil in his hand. And people saw cigarettes, nothing. So there's people that get the experience and there's people that don't. And that's just the way it is. There's a true answer. There's an answer, but like maybe people don't see that answer. You know, I've also thought in the other extreme that like whatever God is, that God could present itself as female, male, whatever it wants to whoever it needs to get the message across.
See, I've always looked at it as that, and maybe I'm wrong here, but It just seems that the phenomena seems to affect everybody differently. Where you and I could be standing right side by side, look up and see a UFO, and we see two totally different things. You see a triangle, I see a boomerang,
But
for
it would
instance.
be, what was it really? That's the truth. The truth is what it really appeared as, unless it's appearing as different things to different people, and then it's not a real thing.
Very true.
So I mean, that's the point. It's like, if there's a, like the instance where she asked what the person had in their hand, and it was a pencil. It was a pencil. It wasn't a cigarette. It wasn't a straw. It wasn't something else. It was a pencil. And
All
so
right, let's move to.
there's a true
Go
answer.
ahead.
There's a true answer for some things, and if it's not real, then everyone can see whatever they want because they're seeing something that's not there.
All right, let's move to another question here from our audience. And let's go to Joe here. Have you ever written about your own experiences?
Not really. I haven't had that many experiences, just a few, a small handful of ones that I've shared.
All right, let's continue on. Let's go back to Wildberry. How do we find the tools to add to our knowledge to help us along the way?
Well, my book is one example, and I'm sure there's other people and other people and other books and other ways that other people share. And like you do a radio show when you have different guests all the time, so you're sharing.
Always got to share the info, my man.
Right.
Always
So
got to share the info.
there's different ways, I think, and they're all good.
All right, let's go to another question here. This one from, let's go to Woo Riders. Dr. Woodard, are aliens interdimensional beings, or are all of them from this reality?
I'm not sure. I haven't had any experiences with aliens myself.
Have you looked into it?
I have had people that have had experiences, but I haven't.
And the people who are experiencing that, what have they told you?
They have had inner experiences where would they would be taken, or they would be interacted with, and so those were interdimensional beings. I can't say if they're from this reality or from another reality. I think sometimes things can enter this reality and return to another reality, but there's no proof of that.
All right,
Just
let's
like
go to.
just like a
Okay,
spirit,
please.
know.
I agree with you, but I mean, millions of people are having these extraterrestrial experiences around the planet, and it's just so weird how a lot of them share the same qualities of the same beings with the same gray big heads, the black eyes, the slit for a mouth, 3.5, 4 feet to
Right,
5 feet tall. I mean, to
right,
me, that is quite tenuous when we see so many people who've never met each other having the same experience.
right. And those things matter, but I didn't do that work. So that's not the work I did.
But do you have an opinion on it?
No, not necessarily, because I didn't actually do the work for that area. So I wouldn't think that I have the knowledge to say. That's what I try to do. I try to not say things I can't, validate through what I've done.
let's head over to another question. This one from Lawana. What do you think about people having random predictive dreams that really do happen in real life?
Yes, that happens. People tell me stuff like that. I remember I had one of the cases in my book was an 18-year-old who had no college education, and he actually saw his neighbor die outside walking his dog, and his neighbor did die walking his dog.
Weird.
He had it in a dream, and so I think those things are real. Not a they happen.
Does that mean that dreams are predictive?
When it's something like that, it would be that he's perceived the dream. He told his parents, and his parents knew that he had had the dream, and then a week later the guy died.
That's just incredible. Does that happen more than we know it happens?
It may, I am not sure. I only have the stories that I investigated to be able to to research. I don't have, I didn't research the other cases, so I wouldn't know.
What cases in regards to that have you investigated that you could talk about?
Well, that was one. The young guy. I don't know if there's any other ones in there. There was a girl that witnessed her friend take a shot at himself, but he pulled it away when she screamed his name, and just had a graze mark on his neck from the bullet, where he never tried it again, which transformed him because she helped him.
Do you think we get put? Do you think we get put in certain situations that we're supposed to be there, right place at the right time, like that situation with the young girl screaming?
She screamed his name because she didn't want him to hurt himself. And yes, I think that those things do happen. They happen more often than not. And I know that when I was working in training way back in the day in my PhD, I had a lot of girls that would say to me, "I knew I shouldn't have gone to that party, but I went anyway."
I had a situation back in 2013 where I was riding on my quad with some people who I'd ridden with before, but the regular people that I rode with were not available to ride at that time. But I figured, you know what? I'd waited all winter. I wanted to go riding. And the entire 90-minute drive up to where we were riding that day, I kept hearing that little voice say to me, "Today's not a good day to ride. Go home, turn around. Today is not a good day to ride." And I should have listened, because 15 minutes into our ride, I had an accident where my ATV flipped over. It rolled over top of me, even though I was in a crevice. It never touched me. It rolled over top of me and then rolled down an embankment 250 feet down a mountainside.
Oh, God.
If I would have just listened to that voice, but I was too stubborn.
Yes, that happens. I think that happens a lot. And that's like just an intuition kind of thing you were talking about earlier, where people just know they shouldn't be doing something and they do it anyway.
Oh, I tell you. That's where I learned my hard lesson of always listen to that little voice, Dr. Fred. Always listen to that little voice. How come that voice never seems to steer you wrong? It's always steering you in the path it needs to go or outside of danger.
Because that's the truth. That's more truth. Like the idea of the mountain lions, the ones that don't show up, and the one that is real. It's a different experience. Fear is never real, but something that's real is different.
Oh,
It's
yes.
experienced differently, and that's the core of those experiences. And in some of the stories, I have those details because I did it phenomenologically. I interviewed people until all the details were told, and I included them all. And some of them were able to be used to, like you at the end of the chapter, for exercises to like open up more. And I would do that, try to get the true story, every detail that the person could remember.
So that little voice then, and I know I asked you this in the first half hour, but just as a reminder, do you think that is a subconscious voice or a godly type of safety net that we have as humans?
Well, I think that the idea is that when you get closer to the truth, it's real. And when you get farther from the truth, it's distorted by all the distortions that go on around us. You know, I remember going to a picnic one time, and the people there talked about the news as if it was the truth, the news media, like it was the truth. And I realized, wow, you really think that's the bottom line? That's what's really going on? And it was very disheartening for me, because I thought that they weren't accepting that there was something bigger going on, but they didn't know what
Let's
it was.
let's go to another question here. This one from Wild Berry. When you were talking earlier about other worlds, what exactly were you talking about? What is this other world?
It's the stuff we don't completely understand. It's like wherever things come from, wherever they go, when they're in the invisible, the things that we don't understand. That's another reality, perhaps, but I don't have an answer for that. I just see the experience as it unfolds for the person here, and then when it disappears, it's gone.
It's fleeting, isn't it? Usually
Yes,
happens quick.
yes.
Okay. We have about 5.5 minutes to go here before we have to say goodbye to you for tonight. Dr. Fredrick Woodard is our guest tonight. What are your conclusions with all of this? Where do you think we are going as humanity?
Oh, I think we're going to advance. It's just a slow process. I think it goes slower than it needs to, but part of it's because we're stuck, and we're being programmed and controlled, and all this other stuff is going on that interferes with our waking up to what's really going on. So I think it's a slow process of
Right.
unfolding, but I think it's happening, and people
How is
like yourself help it happen by sharing your interviews with people and letting people listen to them.
how does it change though as society due to social media and what we see on television has become so desensitizing?
Well, I'm not sure about that. I would say that one of the problems is that we're getting into like details of stuff that may or may not be helpful in those areas, in the areas of spirituality, of paranormal, of supernatural, those areas. It may not be helpful to get into those details. Although I think that I mentioned in my book that if you never saw a red bird, it doesn't mean a red bird doesn't exist. But back in the day before we had cameras and videos and all that other stuff, someone down south would maybe have never gone north, and they would have to believe that somebody up north saw snow, or they didn't believe it. And that would be based on whether that they could allow themselves to believe that.
Question coming from Woo Rider. Have you had patients that hypnotherapy didn't work, and do you know why?
Yes, I have. And I do know why, because they're not open to the experience, and they can't allow themselves to experience it because it doesn't work for them. I remember when I was training in hypnosis, I learned from a lay hypnotist. It was Al Krasner. He was a very gifted guy, and I had to close my hands and listen to what he was saying, and all I could think about was how I wanted to open them. And so then when they said open your eyes, I opened my hands, and he just shook his head and he said, "Wow, you didn't hear anything I said. I have 30 witnesses. I want you to close your eyes, and if you can listen to what I say and you can open your hands, I'll give you $1 million." And I closed my eyes and I listened to what he said, and he said that I couldn't think about or imagine opening my hands. Well, they're not going to open on their own. And so I opened my eyes, and my hands were still clasped, and he said to me, "So now you're in control." And he was right. I was in control because I had listened to what he said and I did what he said. And the results were I couldn't open my hands. He couldn't open his hands if he did the same thing. It has nothing to do with anybody else, but you got to hear what's being said. And if you can't hear it, you won't be able to do it. And I've had people that just kept opening their hands despite everything I said. And I said, you can't be hypnotized right now.
Have you ever had a situation where the person who you're trying to hypnotize had their guides pulling them out of the hypnosis?
No, I haven't done anything with anyone like that.
All right, we have about 1 minute left with you tonight, and I want to say a big thank you again for coming on Spaced Out Radio, Dr. Fredrick Woodard, whose book is called Developing Your Supernatural Awareness, Connecting with an Interactive Universe. The universe is always changing. Tell everybody where they can find these books, please.
They can find my books, my Developing Your Supernatural Awareness, Connecting with an Interactive Universe, on Amazon or any local bookstore. 6 books, if they're in Europe, has it, and Amazon has it there too. So any bookstore that would work.
That is awesome. Thank you again, Dr. Fredrick Woodard, for coming on Spaced Out Radio. Coming up next on the Big SOR, we have hour number 3, kicking off with Steve Stockton from Among the Missing. And then when Steve gets through with his spooky story, the gavel is coming down. It's UFO Court with Courtney Marcassani. We are in for a great show tonight here in hour number 3. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this, everyone.
Thanks.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we are clear. Thank you, Dr. Fredrick. Appreciate that, my man.
Yes, I appreciate it too. Thank you very much. And I will definitely hook up with your recording of this and connect it with my social media.
Beautiful. Appreciate that. Thank you.
And maybe we could have another session down the road.
Absolutely. We got to get more into the hypnotherapy thing.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. All right.
All
Take
right.
care.
Have a good one. You too.
Bye-bye. Great show, guys. Fantastic show. I will be right back. Stick around, everybody. All right, I am back. Oh, Deidre, you're way too kind. Way too kind. Hit me up privately, Deidre, on Facebook or email dave@spacedoutradio.com. dave@spacedoutradio.com. And I'll send you my PO address. Thank you to W. Decker, Deidre, Sweet Donnie Cho, and Scrub-a-Dub-Dub for the super chats tonight. Very much appreciate the love and support. And don't forget to shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. There's no ugly swag there, people. No ugly swag. Here we go. Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. You could join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Cacodemomania, or make that Cacodemomania. There we go. That is your password for tonight. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. It is that time of the night where we say hello to Steve Stockton from Among the Missing and another creepy story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. On October 15, 2004, Jeremy Childress, a 31-year-old experienced hunter, went on an annual elk hunting trip in Tillamook Forest rugged and treacherous terrain with his hunting partner, Shane Louie, and Shane's 12-year-old son. However, they lost track of their campsite soon after. According to Shane, they spent 2 days looking for their camping spot. Shane and his son eventually returned to their truck around 4:30 p.m. on October 17th, but Jeremy walked alone into the thick brush ahead. It was the last time anyone saw him. An extensive search turned up no clues as to his whereabouts. The location where Jeremy disappeared is characterized by steep and rugged terrain covered with brush, with many gullies and fallen trees. Wild animals like bears, cougars, and coyotes also inhabit the area. Authorities do not suspect foul play in Jeremy's disappearance. It's presumed he got lost or injured in the wilderness and passed away. In 2006, based on that theory, Jeremy's wife obtained a death certificate for him. In reports issued just months after Jeremy's disappearance, the undersheriff stated that the area typically sees 1 or 2 hunters go missing every season. Still, the majority eventually find their way back to a road. In a 2014 interview with the Statesman Journal, Jeremy's mother, Becky Grimes, said, "I still have hope that one day he'll be found. I'd much rather have him here with us than up there on that mountain. I still can't go up there." And now, Alan Theus. In November 2003, Alan Theus, a 52-year-old hunter from Eden Valley, Minnesota, went on vacation to Montana. He planned to collect rocks and hunt mule deer in the upper Missouri River Breaks area. Before leaving, he told his mother he would return home by the month's end. Alan was a passionate outdoorsman who used to reside near the area he planned to hunt. However, he hadn't visited the location in quite some time. Alan worked for about 10 years for Geocom, a company specializing in global positioning systems, and was recognized as a responsible employee with a good reputation. On November 22, Allen checked into the Super 8 motel located in Lewistown. He paid a portion of his bill in advance, and his checkout date was November 24. However, he didn't leave on the assigned date and left behind most of his belongings at the motel, except his hunting clothes and rifle, which were not in the room. Allen was reported missing on November 26, 2 days after failing to check out of his motel as scheduled. A search plane found his truck parked near the Stafford Ferry on the Missouri River with an empty rifle case and his boots on the floor. No other evidence of his whereabouts was ever found. Fergus County Sheriff Tom Killam said, "It's extremely rugged, eroded ground. It drops several hundred feet from the top down to the river bottom. It's beautiful country, but it's terribly unforgiving. You need to know what you're doing going into it. These breaks, they are inside-out mountains." So what happened to Allen Theus? Authorities believe Allen became lost in the wilderness and ultimately succumbed to the elements. He was legally declared deceased 8 years after his disappearance.
Thank you to Steve Stockton from Among the Missing for another great story tonight. You want more just like that, head on over to youtube.com/Among the Missing and hit subscribe. Ring that bell. All his stories are free. From the missing to the mysterious, Courtney Marcassani joins us for UFO Court.
That is an interplanetary flying space saucer. You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
Courtney Marcassani is here for UFO Court. Always a pleasure to have you here. Before we get going, though, Courtney, I want to take a big step away from the woo for a second. Our radio audience will not be able to see us. Our YouTube audience will, but I am wearing a very special hat to me tonight, which is a white Nike hat. And I wear this hat twice a year. And the reason why I wear this hat is because tomorrow will be my nephew's 35th birthday. And unfortunately, he did not make it. He passed away at the age of 29 due to a fentanyl overdose. And this is my friendly reminder to all of you that if you have issues, if you have problems with drugs, alcohol, or any type of abuse, please, please, please go get help. There is always someone out there who will be a voice. There is always somebody out there who will take the time to spend with you to help you get better. You have value. And one thing about my nephew, you would never, ever believe that he had a drug problem. He was very much in shape. He was a brilliant young man. Yes, he made some bad decisions. But the one thing that he wanted was to be loved. He wanted to be a successful person. And he wanted to be someone who had a family. And he was my sister's only child. And, you know, it's sad to say that, unfortunately, he didn't make it by the choices that he made. And fentanyl, the one thing I've learned about fentanyl over the years is you could have two people do fentanyl from the same little baggie. And one side of that baggie is the stuff that will kill you, and the other person will be just fine. They'll get high, but it's just fine. And my nephew, unfortunately, didn't make it. And it doesn't get easier. It does not get easier, let me tell you that. But I can tell you this. For those of you who have troubles and you think you're not loved, you think that people don't care, that's just the demons inside of you telling you that you're not worth it. Because I can tell you I love my nephew more than anything. I was 15 years old when he was born, and we grew up together. And it sucks that this idiotic drug took him away. And I miss him. And so twice a year, on the day of his birthday and on the day of his death day, transition day, whatever you want to call it, I wear his hat to honor him. And for those of you who are seeking help, please do the right thing. Go out there, get your help that you need. There are more programs out there than ever before. And there are people out there who you may have never met before who are going to show you the love and show you the way to get your life back on track. Take advantage of that, because whether you believe it or not, you have value. And I want to see you fulfill that value. So get out there, get the help. We may have lost, but the war continues, and I will keep fighting for them to use this platform as something that we can push forward to help other people realize that they are loved and that we do care. So use that love and caring to go get you some help today. Just Google a number. You can just Google your area and ask for a number. A counselor will get on there. It's all free to you, and they will help you. Go for it. You're worth it. That's my message for today. So thank you, everybody, for that time.
I'm so sorry for your loss, Dave. I didn't know, but I'm really glad you did a moment of healing for your nephew. That's very good, and to raise awareness and to support others to reach out and get help, because that's the biggest key.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, I remember the days, Courtney, when I worked in downtown Vancouver and I had one of them city jobs at the radio station, and, you'd see the homeless and you'd see them struggling and begging for money, begging for change and everything. And you'd just either ignore them or you'd give them some sort of cheap shot like they were nobodies. Boy, was I wrong. I had no idea that that was somebody's brother, somebody's sister, somebody's mother or father or aunt or uncle or anything. I mean, deep down, but you become so cold towards people at times that you're just like, get out of here, you rat. Stop bugging me. But that is someone's family. There's family out there, and it may not be the right family. Family may have been what pushed him to the street. But there's friends, there's uncles, there's aunts, there's cousins who still care. There's always a way. That's the one thing I learned about this, is that there is always a way. And people do want help.
I don't know if you know this or not, but I used to work in mental health in Seattle, and I worked in housing and homelessness. And so I would do direct outreach with people. And when you work in the field long enough, you start to see people in terms of their illness, right? Because that's how they come in to get help. And one of the things I noticed was in these individuals who would come and receive services at Harborview, they would have a whole life before. They would have this whole life before, before the mental health challenges and before the addiction. And that's also what gets lost, is that people see the illness and they don't see the person anymore. But I did have a couple of folks in my clinic who passed, and we would have services. We would have services for our patients. And so I was at one service, and the family came and people who knew him came, and we were allowed to meet the family of our patient. And it was such a learning lesson for me, because they all talked about him. His name was David. And they talked about him as he was a softball coach. He was this amazing athlete. I got to see his whole life before I got to know him in his illness. And we lose track of that as well, the real person who's inside. So it's a great message, and I'm glad you shared it. And it reminds me of the people that I used to work with, and that there is help. There is help. There are good people. So you just have to reach out and give it a try. There is hope.
And never quit fighting. That's the other message. You may feel distraught. You may feel like nothing works. Never give up fighting. Never give up hope, as dark as it may be. That's the other part. Just go for it. Take the plunge.
Happy birthday, happy heavenly birthday to your nephew.
Thank you. Thank you.
And to your sister.
Yeah. Let's get to some UFOs because there's a lot going on in the world right now regarding this subject. And a big one is Chris Mellon put out a War and Peace novel regarding his dismay for the Arrow report. Now, this thing is 16,000 words. I read on Twitter that one person took over an hour to read it all. And
really, an hour?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mellon must have been all over the map with his emotions leading up to this, because he's a pretty calculated gentleman when it comes to this story, the way he writes. And it's on the debrief.org if you want to check it on out. Yeah. Okay, but give us the lowdown of this tonight, Courtney.
Well, I was happy to see that he echoed some sentiments that we've had. One, when we did our breakdown of the Arrow report, like he's doing, he's saying it's deeply flawed, and he's giving his reasons for it, just for everybody's context. The first thing he points out, which I really loved, was that there was errors. There were actual errors in the report. Did you remember us talking about that? About how they had referenced in the third paragraph, one of the things I noticed was that they referenced these earlier efforts and organizations, but in the first three paragraphs, there's no organizations or, specific groups listed. And so the first three paragraphs, there's an error in the Arrow report. So it was obviously done hastily. It was moved too fast for some reason. Mellon points that out. He also points out the conspicuous timing of the report coming out, that he feels like it was rushed through to get it out before Sean Kilpatrick left Arrow, so that his successor, whoever comes in, can't delay it or change it. So it was going to be written a specific way, the way that Sean Kilpatrick wanted it. I thought that was also interesting. So those were the first two parts of his debrief article. What were the ones that stood out to you?
Well, I think for me, it wasn't so much what stood out. It was the emotion of it all. We rarely see Chris Mellon get emotional in his words. He's usually very calculated, very politically correct. He doesn't try to mince words, but you could tell that he was genuinely upset and angry with just the way he wrote it. And I think that's what really caught me off guard about it, because he's always been like a statue. He doesn't show any emotion or anything, but you could really tell his frustration with this. And that's what hit me with it, Courtney.
Oh, yeah. That came through loud and clear, that he was frustrated with it. He picked it apart. He felt like a lot of efforts were misguided or missed. So yeah, he was very, his emotions definitely came through. You can see it in the writing. You can feel it too when you read it. It's well worth the read. I mean, I think that he's also trying to marshal support for more transparency. And so he's probably also feeling what everybody else has described, just probably at a much higher level or magnitude, which is the discouragement and the disappointment in the system, and that it failed. They wanted Arrow to work. They wanted Arrow to continue the task force work, and it ended up in a dead end, and they're all upset by that. So yeah, I think the emotions definitely come through.
Do you think that Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, with a lot of people within Washington, D.C., doesn't seem to have a ton of respect that you would expect for somebody in his position? And I'm not saying that to give it the guy a shot or anything, but he just seems to be one of these, that's the way it is, sucks to be you kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? And like a bad landlord, so to speak. And I guess the way I look at it with the way, you know, comments that Elizondo has made, Mellon has now made, and others have made towards Kirkpatrick. Do you think Kirkpatrick is just being the fall guy here because he is a company man? Or do you think that this is the real attitude of Sean for this subject, knowing that he really, number one, didn't get the help, but number two, just never seemed to care about this subject?
Oh, I think he cared about the subject as the leader of Arrow. I think it would be, I think we're misinterpreting it if we're saying that he didn't care about the job at Arrow. I think that he did. He came out in a couple of interviews and said that he had the experience having starting, 11 to 14 other offices creating new programs. And so he felt that his reputation and job were on the line. And I think he took it seriously. I think that if you're going to look at the report that he submitted, the congressional hearings he presented evidence to, he just didn't feel like he found the evidence. And there's people that contest that now with an overwhelming amount of evidence and testimony. But for some reason, he just didn't want to accept that evidence as real. Even saying that Gary Nolan's metamaterials was, stuff that was found, old artillery, these explanations were all prosaic for him. So that's the part that's really muddied, which is hard to tell. And so it's hard to weigh in on it and know what his motives or agenda was, but there was definitely an agenda. We can say that much.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I think there was an agenda that was pushing forward on that. And, people may not want to admit it, but this is why I asked whether or not you felt he was a company guy, that he was a guy who was going to take the role in everything. So that way, if anything bad happened, his name would be associated with it. If anything good happened, well, they'd sweep it under the rug.
He's such an enigma. Because he honestly looked, if you go back to those earlier hearings, he looked like cared. He looked like he was really synthesizing and analyzing all that data. And he admitted that there were cases that they didn't have an explanation for. He admitted they didn't have a good way to track these things. I mean, there were parts of it early on that looked seriously legitimate. I think that the fallout from it is, if he thought that he was going to try to keep himself safe by doing the report this way or being a company man, the fallout from it has far outweighed that Faustian bargain that he made, in my opinion, because of the public outcry, and particularly by people like Chris Mellon raising awareness about how flawed it was. That's going to mar his reputation. That the report was deeply flawed, rushed, mistakes, even a graduate level student would have checked facts, would have followed up on things, would have had this run through multiple previews. Then let's not forget that it was only offered by the DOD to a select group of news and media outlet, not, the wider audiences. It was just mainly for mainstream media, and it was a closed session. That's suspicious.
And on that note, Courtney, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. UFO Court with Courtney Marchesani continues on Spaced Out Radio right after this.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we're clear.
How does the radio portion work? Do you ever hear back from your listeners on the radio?
It's funny. I rarely do, but that's not surprising. Radio listeners they're not reach out type of people. They are more tune in type of people. I know all of our numbers at our radio stations keep going up, which is good. And I haven't been fired from a station yet. So that means it's awesome.
I was talking with my brother-in-law, my sister, because they're so curious about your show, because they have a show. It sounds like you're syndicated. I don't know that they're nationally syndicated, but they were talking about all of this. They've been talking about all of this over the last 2 weeks and weighing in on the radio side. And they cover these issues, and they say that they get a lot of call-ins, but they're local. They're a local station, so they've got a wide audience that listen to them because they have the morning drive. So people listen to them while they're going to work.
That's awesome. And their husband and wife radio team in the morning?
Yeah, they met in Alaska. They were both on a radio station in Alaska, and they send out tapes. It was a long time ago, but they sent out their tapes and their program, and they got this job on the East Coast. So they moved to the East Coast together.
Very cool.
Yeah, well, and then they ended up getting married and having my nephew and all that. So they weren't married at first.
I love it. That's fantastic. Did you want... I want to be careful with how we phrase this because I don't want to... I got to sound vague for... No? Okay.
No, I've had such a tough go. And, I have fought back. And let's just leave it at that,
Not a problem. I wanted to ask you. I got my answer. I didn't think so, but I figured I would ask just in case.
Yeah, no, I reached out immediately, and I reached out to mutual people that we know and contacts to say, this is suspicious. You can't be denied. I have the proof and the evidence. I'm backing it up. And so I addressed it. I addressed it in a professional way. So we don't have to go into it any further. I don't want to disparage anybody, but I'm a little heartbroken. I'm more than a little hurt, but I'll heal. The heart heals.
Yeah, I'm angry about it too, just so you know.
Well, it can't be denied. The similarities can't be denied. They just can't. I mean, the same wording, the same foundational concepts, the whole foundation concept of the study. It's all very similar. But whoever was involved with it, they knew not to use certain terms, and I saw the way it was written. So at least it was brought to my attention, and I was paying attention, and I noticed it.
Just for our audience wondering what the hell we're talking about, the only thing I will say about this is that Courtney caught someone plagiarizing her amazing work, and that's what we're dealing with behind the scenes. And I was going to offer for her to talk about it on the air. She does not want to talk about it on the air, and I don't blame her. I'm just
sad. Yeah, I'm just sad. I don't want to break down. I want to be strong.
Let's be strong together. Want to hold hands?
Let's do it. Let's hold hands.
Hold hands.
Kumbaya, my Lord.
Right.
Kumbaya.
Right. There you go. Now you're feeling it.
Oh, Lord. Kumbaya. Yeah. I went out and got some fresh air and breathed in the fresh air and looked at the stars before I came on tonight, just to wash away and do the cleansing of the bad.
I agree. I think that's awesome. I'm just going to continue for a little bit here with the melon thing. Just read some reaction here, and then we can move on from there.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Scrub-a-Dub-Dub, W. Decker, Deidre, and Sweet Donnie Cho for the super chats tonight. Very much appreciate the love and support. Don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Courtney, we're going to make a UFO Court shirt for you. What do you think?
That would be so cool. I would wear it around like a uniform.
Good. Here we go, everybody. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, always check out our free archives. We're on every major podcast network, as well as youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Courtney Marcassani is here tonight talking UFO Court. We were talking right before the break about this 16,000-word article, op-ed piece by Christopher Mellon, the former Deputy Secretary of the Defense for the United States, very much involved in the UFO world, and his voicing of his displeasure of the Arrow report that came out a couple months ago now. I think we're all still upset about that, but, he let it fly. Lou Elizondo, who's a very big supporter of Christopher Mellon, they both left the To the Stars Academy on the same day, stated this: "A big thank you to all those who helped Chris behind the scenes to accumulate this data. This was well worth the read. We all had initial hopes for Arrow in the beginning, but this shows unequivocally the bias and missteps of its former leader. Everyone in Congress who cares about the truth should read this." Basically, Elizondo is calling Kirkpatrick a liar and a person who covers up details that shouldn't be covered up. That's pretty strong words, Courtney.
Yeah, well, let's not forget that they were just in Congress a couple weeks ago. Chris Mellon, Lou Elizondo, Ross Coulthart. I found out that there is a whole wider group. It wasn't just those individuals. There was a whole wider group invited and attended meetings in Congress. And so he's probably speaking to the fact that it needs to be looked into by Congress as well, that there's actual legal implications, I would imagine, because they're in talks.
You mean legal implications towards or against Kirkpatrick?
Yes. Yes.
Wow, I haven't heard that yet.
It's just an angle I'm pursuing, so I'm introducing it. We've been right on here. Our information's been on, our sources have been on, so maybe Lou Elizondo doesn't mean to speak to that, but maybe because I know that might be happening, I'm putting it on that statement. How about that?
And what would they be wanting to take Kirkpatrick to court for, out of curiosity?
Basically taking their sworn testimony under oath and then skewing it and saying that it wasn't true, that it was false, which would fall under which legal category? I'm thinking maybe, I don't know, slander maybe, or something along those lines.
That is strong words right there.
It's just my interpretation of what I've heard. It's my analysis of the discussions and the talks.
Right.
That's my takeaway. You know, one of my takeaways from meeting with folks around the DC area.
So from all the people that you have talked to regarding this, you know, people, and these are people involved in the UFO story behind the scenes, one way or another. Names are irrelevant right now. It almost seems like Kirkpatrick doesn't have the best reputation, never mind for his work with Arrow, but he just never seems, from what I've heard from people, I'm curious if you've heard the same, he doesn't seem to be a guy who's been very well liked throughout his career.
Boy, I don't know about that. I don't know. I don't know about the history of his career and his working relationships. What I did pick up from on his interviews is that he carefully selects the individuals that he does interviews with that are semi-positive or pro Kirkpatrick. So I have noticed that he does carefully choose individuals he speaks to about the issues. He's not one to pick a journalist who's going to ask tough questions. I'll say that.
Well, most politicians and government people don't. They want the softballs.
But he has a public-facing government position, establishing a new office. I mean, it would have been a smart move to speak with mainstream press and to discuss the legitimacy of his office, how his job was funded with taxpayer dollars, one of the only people in the UFO field who has been paid a salary publicly, So, he had a lot riding on the line on his reputation. I would have think that he wanted to reach out to the media to put their mission and vision out there. And, you just see this very clearly coordinated media approach, which resulted in an exclusive access pass for only those they want to invite and only information that they wanted to share, which wasn't the whole picture of what Arrow studied. So it was a disgrace. It was a national disgrace. That's what it was. And so Chris Mellon is, breaking that down, and Lou Elizondo is saying the same thing.
Wow. This just seems to get uglier and cut deeper. You know what I'm saying? But the other thing that I wanted to bring up with you tonight in regards to this subject is the topic of drones again. Lots of people from Elizondo to everybody talking drones. I thought we were in the business of UAP.
Well, the narrative is clearly shifted, from these talks in DC. You can see the result of that now because all these congressional people are pushing the narrative towards these incursions of the drones and, basically calling them, not to mince words, but, attacks essentially by these vehicles. And so I think that's a direct result of the meetings in Congress and what was discussed. That's what they want to focus on now. But it's creating all of this is creating disenfranchisement in the community and people feeling really the loss of momentum with the UAP task force, highly credible people being disparaged or not included in these reports, or being told that they were misunderstood what they heard, saw, or whatever. Potential, lawsuits might have to be filed in order to have people clear up their names and their reputations. And so you can just see the disenfranchisement that's happening. And now that they're going to go to drones, it's just going to leave a lot of people left with apathy, I think. Apathy.
Well, one of the things that I want to bring up, and this is another one of those Dave, I told you so moments.
Go for it, Dave. If you got to do it, tonight is actually the night to do it. I told you so. Wag your finger.
I am going to, for people, 'cause Courtney, you know, because you see how much crap I take by
Yeah.
saying UFOs and UAP are different. They are hiding behind the UAP banner. And here
Oh,
we
yeah, I
are.
know you've taken grief over that. I know you've taken grief over that, that, you know, the
Absolutely.
terminology, the positioning, posture, the language, the narrative, you know, to get everybody to look into UAPs and the shift of the
Absolutely.
tide of what that means, what that word really means, and the loss of the distinction in it and the presentation of it between what a UFO is and what a UAP is. So,
Absolutely. You're 100% correct on that. And I have taken a lot of ribbing online, okay, over this over the last couple of years. But every time I'm like, you know, I start seeing myself go into that UAP side and I don't like it because I want to stand my ground and I've drawn my line in the sand. Something happens where now everything is a drone.
hey, look.
Everything, all of
Look,
these
you're
UAP
in good company.
are
Calm Keller himself says, I'm going to call them UFOs. I mean, he did that recently in an interview, and I was like, yeah, you're preaching to the choir, you know? Like, we all say UFOs. That's what they are, you know? This whole UAP thing is just, it's confusing everybody.
I agree with you on that. I agree with you 100% on that. And that to me is something when we see this topic now shifting about drones, drones, drones. Well, these were UAP a month ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago when this topic came out. They're not looking for UFOs. UFOs are completely different. The UAP thing, once again, that's all man made objects, all man made.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the whole, like, secretive part of that our adversaries, the US adversaries, you know, this is all protection against them knowing what the tech is. Well, I have to say, one of the biggest eye-opening things when I went back and reread the transcript and revisited and refamiliarized myself with the hearing, David Grush said that exfiltrated intelligence came out that they knew that we had, our adversaries knew we had a back engineering program. And he went and he tracked down, and that's when his own troubles began in the UAP task force. That's when doors started to close and he got the finger wagging and, you know, how dare you ask for this? And no, you don't, you're not going to ever get it. And things changed after he found that things started to become more difficult to get access to. So I know we have a reverse engineering program. Grush found it. It was in the hearing, you know, so obviously they're aware of it. And this whole big thing and cop out about the adversarial stuff to me is it's just a paper tiger.
It totally is. And you know what? I think we're going to see more people, and I see it every day, more people starting to turn away from the trend of UAP because they are starting to see through the government storylines. They're starting to see how the government is changing their narrative because, like I said, drones are drones, you know, and I still got to teach my son how to fly his drone.
Oh, well, I think it's going to really interest the drone people and the people that have said for so long that there's an unmanned aerial program that's so advanced that, you know, we have such dominant technology. I think those people are going to be really excited about what's to come and that they might get some revelations about our, you know, our advanced tech. You know, good for them, you know, good for them that they might get some interesting, you know, area of research that will come out that will reveal some secret unacknowledged access program. But, you know, to have that be a primary thing in the news and as the congressional talking points after those meetings, it's really discouraging. It's really discouraging for the people who are waiting for disclosure, for UFO disclosure. That's a tough pill to swallow.
how do we move forward from this? Because it seems like, once again, this drone phenomena is very much confusing the narrative again.
How do we move forward from this? Well, we have to keep raising awareness, for one, about subtle differences between back engineered alien tech and the advanced drone program. What part of UFOs, metamaterials, materials, patents that were made, intellectual property that was used, or the tech that was handed over to aerospace companies, what part of that was development and applied into unmanned aerial vehicles? That's how you draw that link out and make people be aware that if it's an advanced super secret program, did it come from alien tech like fiber optics did, and the silicon chip and all these other things that we got? Make the connection. That's how you move forward. You establish the connection and then you work it and you draw attention to it. That's my answer.
I think that's a brilliant answer. Once again, I mean, you do have to, consider the obfuscation that is going on here. I mean, the alphabet agencies seem like they're scrambling to try and change everything. They don't want to talk about this subject. They're tired of the pressure. I'm wondering how much the pressure is getting to them.
I think that the pressure is on multiple levels. And I have seen that there is a contingent in the intelligence community that is actually trying to help. Now, a year ago, I mean, I'm not sure if I would have seen that. I think I would have taken a much darker view. But I have to say, there are definitely people in the intelligence communities that want to help. Want to help disclosure.
Well, I know there's a lot of people trying to help disclosure, but are we getting the movement that we need?
Yes.
Considering,
yeah, we are getting the movement that we need, but we're not the wider community is not involved in the discussion, and that's what's really driving a lot of people really mad right now with it, and kicking the beehive. The bees are buzzing because certain individuals aren't involved in those discussions. It's the elites. It's the elites that are having the discussion, and that's also disenfranchising for individuals that should be included, at least in informed and engaged in these topics and hearing what's being discussed rather than being left out of the discussion. That's just my viewpoint.
what do you think the next discussion on this is? Where do we go with this?
Well, if the meetings in DC are any indication, it's going to be about eminent domain, what it is, what the government has a right to seize, through a request or seizure process. It's also going to be about eminent domain law in the United States and how it's applied to those things I just mentioned, like intellectual property, patents, essentially like royalty money that will be paid out in perpetuity because this tech has had a foothold and established so long in certain sectors, and not just in aerospace and others. So there's a lot at stake with the money. That's what we're going to hear about. That's what's primary moving forward in Congress. And I don't know that it's going to be resolved. It's such a huge sweeping impact of what eminent domain might entail that would require a high level, legally coordinated effort to push disclosure through. And it might be another deal breaker that could stop disclosure going forward. So then if we don't get controlled disclosure, then it's, partially going to be maybe catastrophic. And, if NHI is involved with this, they're going to do it their way. And so I think those are all things that are moving forward at this time with a very select group of individuals pushing it.
Well, are we going to see more names, outside of the whistleblowers? are there going to be more names maybe politically coming out? Because we see, a lot of people once again in parliament, or pardon me, in government, parliament up here, who seem to be talking some very tough words again, Courtney. I mean, this reminds me of Kristen Gillibrand, who was speaking very, very tough before the original hearings, that she was going to get to the bottom of this. But the minute it came down to it, she folded like a paper plate.
Well, she backed Arrow. She and Marco Rubio backed Arrow because they got the support for it. They widened the reach of the office, and everybody had high hopes for Arrow. They were going to get the job done and do it effectively, and disclosure was going to be a part of that. But she definitely turned tack, and she supported Arrow versus supporting disclosure. That part is clear. I wouldn't say that she folded her, tent and went home, but I definitely think that she got involved in the politics of it and got political. I mean, all of this has gotten political, and so far it has been a bipartisan effort, but except for when, Schumer amendment had very important parts of it removed for special interests. That was political by the Republican Party, but it mostly had overwhelming support for the Schumer amendment. Let's not forget that. It was a majority. And so we do have the majority. I heard that recently, and I think that that's important, that we have the majority support. And so we just have to keep tracking it, following it, and supporting disclosure. And if people like Senator Gillibrand get political like this and don't support disclosure, we have to raise awareness around that. And why are our representatives getting political on disclosure? They don't need to.
And court is now out of session. Courtney Marcassani and UFO Court, thank you for another great update. As we say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, Space Travelers Club, and on X. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Hot damn, that's juicy. Juicy, I tell you. Juicy! Good job tonight, Court. You're amazing.
Yeah, no problem.
No problem.
I think that this is just me talking to you now.
No, we're still
yeah, I
here.
know, but we're not on the air, so I can say this.
Well, we're still on YouTube. Remember that.
Yeah, I know. I think it's going to be catastrophic. Disclosure.
I don't know if that's healthy. I mean, I understand why you're saying that. I just don't. I don't know if it's healthy.
how else are they going to get aerospace companies that have made so much money, no bid contracts, IRAD monies that haven't been tracked properly, no notification systems on them for accountability, in these deep programs, which the budgets have been well kept and obscured. How are they going to be able to get through that kind of a blockade politically? So people are all disappointed about the fact that, experiencers aren't in this debate right now in Congress, and well, by design that we're not. But imagine the undertaking that the truth seekers have in lifting all of the minutia over that.
Oh, 100%.
100%. I mean, I had somebody tell me a long time ago, they're never going to disclose. They're never going to disclose it. And all the social moorings that are happening and the stories and the documentaries and the books to all shed light on the cover up is good. But it's hard to look at the very clear political challenges ahead and say that we're going to get disclosure, even a controlled disclosure at this stage. I mean, you have to look at the strategy and look at it, look how Arrow failed, and look at this as plan B of the strategy. It's just overwhelmingly a negative picture.
Well, I'm sure the potential of lawsuits is scaring the hell out of them. Embarrassment, egg on their face. I mean, this has, I don't want to sound over dramatic here, but I often wonder if this has the power to, this story to bring down the military industrial complex.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about. That is what it's all about, is exposing the abuse, exposing, the truth. And it's, it's going to be ugly. So controlled disclosure would mean that the government would be able to obviously reveal, the tech, reveal the advantages that certain companies got, have there be some kind of reconciliation process with the public, a soft type of disclosure. But that's...
What do you think?
It's hard to believe that it's a realistic. It's hard to believe that it will be a reality. That's all I'm saying at this point. I'm not trying to be negative, but...
No, I don't think you are. What do you think of Rob's comment here? Government wants to make sure they maintain post-disclosure or power post-disclosure. Therefore, controlled disclosure could take another 100 years.
Yeah, I agree. It's all about the power. It's all about who controls, who has controlled everything, and who will control it going forward. And, they don't want Congress to have the control, even though that's where it absolutely should be. Congress is really just trying to, investigate it and get the evidence into the light, and especially about the money. Where'd all the money go? How much money? How many billions have been spent? That's what people really want to know.
Trillions, even.
Probably. Yeah, I'm probably lowballing. It's probably trillions. It's probably in the upper trillions.
Toddens Turner says AGI will out it long before. I apologize, Toddens. Maybe it's late, or maybe I'm not up to date on my acronyms. What is AGI? Is that attorney? Do you have attorney generals down there?
It's just AG. Attorney General is AG, but it's also an Inspector General, an IG. There's the intelligence community, Inspector General. There's a bunch. Oh, Artificial Central Intelligence. Artificial General Intelligence.
Yeah, that's when the
That would be an interesting byproduct of AI.
the T-800s start walking around with machine guns.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that's being talked about right now in certain groups about AI. That, Elon just came out and said that it's going to be sentient this coming year. Or past predictions were like it was 20 years, 10 years. Now it's a year. Because there's so much that's uncontrolled about that, about AI and the development of the technology and Sam Altman's controversial stuff. So keeping an eye on that, I think, is really important. I have more to say about that, like Elon Musk's role in all this. I have a couple inside tracks in understanding how close Elon Musk is to all this, which he adamantly kind of denies, or he's very enigmatic about the whole issue, but, I think it's fair to say that Elon Musk is probably directly involved with UFO issues and uses other people to hide behind them.
I think that's always been part of his contract, that he can't talk about it.
Yeah, well, that's part of the game being played, but there's similar characters, there's Peter Thiel. He also is involved in it. I know he's involved in technology. No, he is. I know Peter Thiel is involved in developing technology, and he's been wanting to get a foothold in it for a long time. So you have these high-level individuals developing all the technologies, yet we're not exactly sure what they do. They won't tell us what's been developed. And so who in that group has gotten advantages from IRAD monies? I mean, let's be real.
Oh, I hear you. It sure as hell isn't you and me.
Look, people listen to us because we talk about those connections where nobody else will. So we might as well just lay it out on the table and, say, hey, this is what I'm, seeing. So when people listen to it, they can go follow it up on their own.
And for our audience, the people that we are talking to, they are getting fed up with the game. They're tired of it all. Are you still there, Court?
Yeah, I'm reading this comment. If Colt Hart knows of a UFO so big they had to build a building around it, and we still don't have government disclosure, then it won't come through those channels, unfortunately. I agree 100%. Why were individuals in that chat group who were looking for the longitude and latitude of that structure kicked out? Because Ross felt threatened, apparently, according to one reporter. So look, I take that threat seriously. I know they're real. I know that reporters get threatened for getting close to things, and they have to walk a very thin tightrope. So yeah, people are being asked to shut up and threatened, and they have to sell out to some degree too, to keep people happy and only report on certain things. So there's also a narrative being crafted at multiple levels. It's very complex. So like I've said before, Dave and I are kind of known for cutting it straight, and we might make mistakes, but we at least admit it when we do. There's a lot of deception going on, and I think that's hard to discern sometimes within the complexity.
And for our audience to understand is, what Courtney's doing, what I'm doing, and people associated with us are doing is we're really, really trying to bridge those relationships where the people in the know can trust us that we are going to provide the proper information as it comes out. That's not selling out. What that is these people don't know us from a hole in the ground. Courtney has done, if you guys knew what Courtney has done behind the scenes to build these relationships, to bring you the news of what's going on, and eventually We're going to be the ones who are going to be able to release names. We're going to be the ones who are going to be able to release information, but it all comes with trust. It all comes with the trust that is being built on the ground floor as we speak. Now, a lot of people may not like that, but unfortunately, as Courtney has stated, from a journalistic level, that's how the game is played, and you have to be able to gain the trust, because if you don't gain the trust of that source, they're not going to give you the information to run the story. And you want them to feel safe that we're an outlet that is going to make sure that, not that we're playing by the rules, but that we're playing by the journalistic rules of calling it down the middle.
Well, people want to come to us. I can say that. People want to come to us and talk about their stories on Spaced Out Radio because of who we are. So that's good news. That's something that I've heard about. I'm very happy to hear about that we've developed trust, and certain people want to come out and tell their stories with us. So that's good news. Todd Turner kicked out from a research group for asking certain specific questions about that structure. That was my understanding. And if I'm wrong, correct me.
That I don't know. I can't answer that one. I heard that he was kicked out as well.
Which group? You know the group. You personally know the group.
I want to know if he prefers Todd, Toddance, or Toddles. That's what's on my mind.
Hot toddies are nice in the wintertime.
Or hot toddy, yeah. Hot toddy.
You haven't had a hot toddy.
We'll find out. It's an important answer coming up here. Oh, yeah. I actually, for our audience who maybe not heard this, but when I broke the MUFON story a couple months ago that their website had been hacked, I actually had a lawyer from them call me up asking me for my sources.
I remember.
And
remember I asked you, who did the lawyer represent and how did the head of that board get your contact information? Those were two questions that I personally asked you in the follow-up.
Yeah. So, I mean, people are afraid right now, dudes. They are afraid. And they think, and like I reminded her, I said, you're not dealing with an ordinary podcaster here, lady. You're dealing with a journalist who knows a story when he sees one. So my job is to vet my story. She goes, so you're not going to, she goes, I'm going to assume you're not going to give me the names of the people that you told. I said, not a fucking chance. I told her just like that, not a fucking chance. And I laughed afterwards. Right. And she kind of laughed with me. She's like, because she tried to tell me all my information was wrong. It's like, no, I did my due diligence. Thank you. I did my due diligence.
Well, I mean, you have to. You have to. You just don't know what some of the information that's being presented to you sometimes is being used against you. One, to find out who you're talking to, right? To reveal your sources. Sometimes you'll get fed something to see where it goes. So you do have to ratchet down on who you talk to. And then you have to be real, have major discretion about who you share stuff with. Because, I've been burned.
Oh, me too.
I've been warned now repeatedly. I mean, I hadn't heard you're going to die. We're going to kill you. I haven't heard that. I haven't heard like you're getting close to death. But I've been threatened, sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And by surprising people too. Not the people that you would expect to be warned about, which is really interesting when you get right down to it.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to the show. Almost all the information is wrong. Thank you. Thank you for that. Well, we weren't wrong about the DC talks. We reported that accurately. Nobody else had it. So, and that's the other thing, we can just stop at any time. We can just stop doing this. I know you won't stop, Dave, but
No.
I
No,
will. I will definitely stop at some point.
Well, I mean, you know what? You're going so hard right now, you're going to have a burnout level. And I mean that.
Well, I mean, I'm just sick of the BS. I'm sick of the BS, and I'm sick of these conversations that are like, Steve Bassett called a good friend of mine who knows me and knows my work over a long time, and he said, "Oh, she's going to be a good post-disclosure advocate." Well, who gets to decide that? Who gets to decide that? Is that a group of dudes who sits around and says, "Oh, well, she'll be a good post-disclosure advocate"? I'm sorry, but I think I, chart my own destiny, and so that's why I work as hard as I do. And people appreciate that, and they appreciate what we cover. But don't tell me who I'm going to be.
Right.
In this effort.
I agree. Don't let anybody
It just
push.
means somebody is basically charting this whole thing and saying, "Oh, this person will be good for that, and this person is a good asset. This person is a good reporter, and this person is a good, agent or whatever." It's like, that's the part I don't like. That's the part I really don't like.
It's just, it's such a rabbit hole.
Yeah, what does that even mean? You'll be a good post-disclosure advocate. And it wasn't even said to me. It was just two dudes having a conversation, two old, older folks. And so I don't know who makes these decisions, but as long as I'm, doing this as long as I can, I'm going to shine a light on stuff like that and who the crafters are.
As we should. As we totally should.
I mean, it gets me in trouble, People might say her. She's the one. She's the one. But that's okay.
Court, you never seem to amaze me. We're going to wrap things up here.
All right, Dave. Good night. Good night. Good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Absolutely. And a big thank you to everybody tuning in, including thank you to Deidre W. Decker, Sweet Donnie Cho, Scrub-a-Dub-Dub, all of our brand new subscribers who came on in and hung out with us. We very much appreciate you. Thank you to everybody listening in on our other ways to listen in. Very much appreciate it. As I will be back on Monday night. My guest, Samantha Mowat, the 10-year anniversary of seeing aliens in the forest. Not UAPs, aliens in the forest. Not NHI, aliens in the forest. Yeah. Don't forget this weekend, you have Sweet Robbie G in the hot seat with After Hours Saturday and Sunday starting at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. And right before Rob's show on Sunday, Jessica Jones and Off the Trails with a Cryptid Huntress. We'll see you all then, everybody. Take care.
Good night.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.